Okay, Dave Burman live and live in color. Good Monday night. CMPRadio.net, Delco Sports 360. Great to have special guest here this evening. To my left, it is the one and the only Dana Bowser. She is the social, emotional learning coordinator for the Chester Upland School District. We're going to talk about tonight the on and off the field and court, how Dana deals with the athletes. I know it's tough out there when you're in a battle on the whatever sport it is, even baseball, even you got guys going crazy when the soccer, but Dana, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you for having me, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, man. You're full of energy. I see a lot of the Chester High football games since I've been PA announcer over the years, but it's hard to believe you've only been working, Chester Upland School District 2 years. This is your second season?
Yes, actually, Wednesday is my 2-year anniversary.
Yes. So there you go,
yes,
man.
2 years.
So it's awesome. So you're originally from New York.
Yes.
What part of New York? New York City. Brooklyn, New York. Are you a New York sports fan, which I'm not very fond of? I'll be straight out. It goes way back. I was damaged my college days with these New Yorkers, bandwagon jumpers, by the way. Yes. Anyway, so you have 9 teams or whatever. But anyway, are you a Philly or New York fan?
So the funny thing is I grew up an only child in a New York household, and my father was a huge Giants fan, and my love of football developed with watching football with my father. However, when I got to Philadelphia, I couldn't help but jump on the Eagles train.
There you go.
I am a huge Eagles fan, and my son is a diehard Eagles fan, and we've done a lot of work with the Philadelphia Eagles.
And yes, thank goodness. And the New York Giants are the last, they won, 3 Super Bowls in the last 15, 20 years, maybe 30. Anyway, enough. And they're the last New York professional sports team out of the 9 teams in the metro New York area to win a world championship. 2011, Eli Manning. So anyway, that drought's now 12 years, and hopefully it will continue. Sorry, New York sports fans out there, but I'm diehard Philly, and I'm a suffering Philadelphia pro sports fan. But anyway, this is when it comes to social emotional learning, Dana, I need that for my pro sports because it really affects me. I lose my cool too much, and I lose my cool a lot playing sports, even at my age, even playing with the old heads down the shore. So I'm going to learn something listening to what you do with pretty much just the athletes from all the sports at Chester Upland?
It's athletes, and it's students, and it's staff all across the district.
Staff? They lose their cool too?
Well,
Okay. All right.
We're teaching them,
Right.
We're teaching skills.
I can't wait to ask you some more questions here.
Sure.
So you ended up from the Bronx. How'd you end up in this area? I know you live up in Bucks County.
Yes, I do. So I went to Temple. That's what brought me to Pennsylvania. I studied education at Temple. And all these other extracurricular activities. As I mentioned earlier, I was on the dance team there and the Honor Society and all different committees and things of that nature. And when I was a senior at Temple, I started student teaching at William Penn High School in North Philadelphia,
Nice,
which
yeah.
is no longer there, which is part of Temple now. They've acquired that. And that's where my education career started, at William Penn High School. And then a few years in, being in the classroom, I noticed that there's so much more involved than just teaching. And that's when I decided to go back for my master's degree in social work and counseling, because a lot of the times I wasn't just a teacher. I was the counselor. I was the person that a lot of these students were pouring their heart out to about things that they couldn't talk to about, with anybody else. So I acquired my master's degree, and I went into social work and counseling and therapy for a really long time. I worked for a nonprofit organization for about 20 years, where we served individuals with intellectual disabilities and mental illness. So that was a whole nother experience. And then that's when I knew I wanted to get back into education. I just didn't know in what capacity. So I started looking, and then I saw this job description, and I always knew about Chester. I heard about, what a great community Chester was. And it's really funny because we all know that sometimes Chester Every city has this rap about them. But I've never been one to judge. I immerse myself. I mean, I taught in North Philly for several years. So to me, it's about the community. It's about getting to know the community members and, just immersing yourself in this city. So when I saw this job description, I said to myself, this is what I want to do. It involves the counseling component of it. It involves the training component of it, the education component of it. And I've never looked back.
So your office is right in Chester High School? Is that what?
Yeah, so technically I'm part of central office. I'm an administrator. When I first started, our offices were located on the first floor of Chester High School, but then administration moved to Edgemont. However, I stayed put at Chester High School just because I wanted to be there and I was making connections with the students, and I started doing groups with them and sessions, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm actually at all 7 schools, so I bounce around from school to school to school to school.
Amazing. And you know the rich history of the city of Chester. There's a lot. It's unbelievable, not just sports I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
The people we have, entertainers and singers, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now, of course, deep Chester roots for me. My mom grew up 3rd and Parker, Elman's Variety Store, Dad 22nd Street. In Chester, and he started Burman's Pharmacy, so he's been dealing with people, the Burmans, for a long, long time. It goes way back. 1965, he started his pharmacy, 24th and Madison. So, yeah, all about Chester. Moved from Chester 6th grade to Wallingford. So I graduated from a school called Nether Providence High School, just to give you a little, which is now Strathaven.
Right.
And I had to announce that Strathaven Chester District 1 championship game. So I had people all over. What an unbelievable day that was. You want to talk about that day? Oh, the District 1 championship. I know Chester, the Clippers, we fell just short. Strathaven's an unbelievable football program. Coach Clancy, been there forever. You know, all the Chester football guys, Coach Shaw, his staff. Go on and talk about the football team first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the football team was phenomenal. And coming from my perspective, I always watch reactions because that's what I've just been, trained to do. And the emotion that was felt on that day, it's incredible. There's really no words for that. These guys put in, and not just Chester and all teams, their blood, sweat, and tears for the season, before season, during the season, after season, with the workouts and things of that nature. And, you have this feeling inside of you that you just want this win so bad. And then, afterwards, when there's the big upset or the disappointment, it's just, and that's kind of where social emotional learning comes in. How do you deal with these emotions? Some people may fall into a depressive state, which is really scary. If your whole life is football and then all of a sudden it's just done, now what do you do?
It's all levels, though. It goes from, the youngsters starting when they start playing sports, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years
Yes.
old, and then all the way up to the professionals. And then the crazy old heads in our 60s and 70s like me that are still playing. Yeah, it is tough to be a good loser. For me, at least, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to do it.
And it's not even just about the losing. It's even about balance as well, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about sports, especially in school, there's a lot of pressure. You have your workouts. You have, a lot of our student athletes have jobs as well.
You're right.
And then you don't know what's going on at home with the families. So you're balancing all of these things, and then you still have to be able to get through the school day, and then you need to be able to focus, and you don't know necessarily if you may have a ride to the game or you get to practice late due to other unforeseen circumstances. So there's so much to consider when it comes to social emotional learning. And I just want to make it clear so that the audience knows social emotional learning has to do with self-concept, self-awareness, relationship building, responsible decision-making, reactions, building relationships, coping. There's so many things that it covers. And it's really about seeing the person as his or her whole self, not just, for teachers, it's not just a student or a scholar in a classroom, but what's the backstory behind the person? For coaches, what's the backstory behind the athlete? Where did they come from? How did they grow up? What's the family life like? Because we don't know how these things may be affecting them on and off the field.
That's a lot to cover. You have so many schools here, from kindergarten, elementary.
Yes.
You have people helping you out doing this?
So at each school, I have an SEL coach that kind of like oversees it for the school, but we all work together when it comes to that. And another thing that I want to stress and discuss is the implementation of our positive action SEL curriculum throughout the district, which is taking place district-wide in all the schools. So they get lessons in social emotional learning starting in pre-K all the way up through 12th grade. That was one of my goals and jobs to do when I came here, was to find a curriculum and make sure that it was implemented. But in addition to that, I didn't want to just stop there. I wanted to build those relationships with the students and the staff. So it involves professional development, but it also involves connecting with the students, because you're not going to be able to get anywhere if you don't build those relationships. And so that's when I started the positive action lunch groups at Chester High School, which have become incredible. The things that we talk about, the things that come out of these groups, and what these students are getting from it. And we're really big on collecting data. So I implemented a pre-survey before the group and then after the group, just to see how their attitudes and behavior and academics have changed. So,
do you have someone doing this at Toby Farms Elementary?
Right.
That's where I started my 1964, so I was there through 6th grade.
Yeah.
So Toby Farms among the other schools.
Right. We have other schools. So unfortunately, I'm only one person.
Right.
We're really trying to get it in other schools. As a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with Principal Bell and Principal Brown over at STEM and the Digital Academy, because we wanted to try to start implementing groups there as well. We have a new art therapist in the district. Art therapy, which goes hand in hand with social emotional learning. So we're working together to try to coordinate our schedules as well as another form of expression for our students. My goal would be, to be able to have some type of group like this in all the schools. Now, schools do run groups like with the social workers and counselors and things of that nature, where they do incorporate social emotional learning. So it is happening. We just want it to happen more.
Dana, you're calming me down by the way you're speaking here. It's great. And so let's say you're at a sporting event, a football game, and there's an issue out on the field, and the teams are getting fired up, and you've seen it here and there. Would you actually be allowed to go out and calm down the Chester athlete?
Well, that I'm not 100% sure of yet. I know that I'm going to be sitting down and talking to AD Bell about things. We've been working together. I've been working with some of the coaches, specifically some of the teams, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yes.
But when my son played for the Southampton Knights, and I was vice president of the organization.
It's a very competitive football up there, Bucks County.
Yeah.
Great traditionally.
But I'll give you an example. I mean, even at an early age, we did have some players that were very fired up and did not know how to cope with their losing or their anger on the field and off the field. And because of my background in mental health and therapy, I worked with those athletes, and I pulled them over, and I got them. We did some, different strategies like breathing techniques, or walking them through some different coping strategies and techniques where they were able to take their escalation level from here and bring it back down to where they were able to perform back on the field. So that would be a great opportunity if I was able to do that here. But most of my work has been it started off with a pilot program with the girls volleyball team, believe it or not.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, I'm thinking boys here, but yes, girls are very emotional too.
Yeah.
So, let's go to the volleyball. And our girls basketball, tremendous year. Coach Dukes, give him a shout.
Yes, definitely. Congratulations to the girls basketball team. They did a phenomenal. Chester's really just trending right now in sports, track and field, football, basketball, across the board. So as far as the volleyball team, I guess what was happening was, especially when, you have new athletes and new players on a team, you're adding to the dynamic of the team. So therefore, you're going to have different personalities, just like with anything. So when it comes to a sports team and any team, there has to be trust building, relationship building. How are you going to spend all this time with this person and play on the field or the court with this person if you don't know anything about the person and trust the person? So we did a pilot program, myself and Coach Guy, who's the girls volleyball coach. And the girls came to my office one day, and I did a couple of social emotional learning activities with them. That were very powerful, to the point where we were probably, the majority of us were in tears by the end of the session. There's a very, very strong emotional activity that I do called I Wish My Coaches Knew. Or you can flip it, and the coaches can do it, I wish my athletes knew. I've used it in the classroom, I wish my teacher knew, I wish my students knew. And what I tell them is, you're in a safe space right now. You might know the person next to you, but you might not know the person across from you. All of you guys are going to be spending all of this time together. And if you had the opportunity to tell your coach anything about yourself and your teammates anything about yourself, what would it be? And I give them examples. And, one of the examples I gave I just put it out there, like, I wish my coach knew that I live in a single mom home and I have 4 siblings and my mom works a double and I work 2 jobs, but I'm responsible for getting my brothers and sisters up in the morning and taking them to school. And when I get to school late, it doesn't mean that I don't want to be here, but the last thing I really want is for a teacher to be upset with me because they don't know what I went through to get here and to put myself in the building. And then as far as like the coaches, when it came to the athletes, the ongoing theme that I saw when we looked at these, and some of them allowed me to read it out loud so that they can hear. Some of them volunteered to read it, and then some of them I read anonymously. I would say the main theme was how many of these girls said, I am scared to be a failure. And that right there, because so much pressure is put on them as being a student, but also being a student athlete. And that starts from the time that you're young through high school, when you get to college, and then if you're going to go on to the next level, playing in the pros. And that really, really broke my heart because, these expectations and these high expectations that are set for our scholars and our athletes as well, they're dealing with all this pressure, and all they want is to be accepted and to know that if they try their best, that's going to be enough. Very powerful activity.
Chester High Sports has been high profile for a long, long time. I heard we got a nice feature on one of the local TV stations today on Chester High, the boys basketball team. Mm-hmm. Very nice. What a year. Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. And the football guys have meant a lot with Duran. Mm-hmm. And Jalen as sophomores. They do not play like sophomores. Right. They're not scared of anything. And it's just been an unbelievable season so far.
Absolutely.
I mean, Keith Taylor deserves to be the Delco Boys High School Basketball Coach of the Year. I already threw that out there. So hopefully the Delco Times will, one publication already gave it to him. Hopefully Delco Times will. But anyway, it's high profile. So there is a lot of pressure on these kids. The fans are tough. Especially the old heads, those old head guys up there. Yeah, so I know you about the old heads.
Absolutely. It is. It's a lot of pressure. And
who's still coaching? And you go to the basketball games, right?
Yeah.
Kenny Harris, Coach Kenny. He's still coaching. He's on the other. Oh, my gosh. I wish he'd be on the bench, but maybe it's cool to be separate. But hey, you talk about an emotional guy. I grew up with him. So, yeah, we had some battles back in the day. So, yeah, it's a lot of pressure on these young men and women playing ball.
Absolutely. And like I said, you never know what they're going through. We've had some of our student athletes deal with really rough situations, you know. There may have been like a loss, like a devastating loss in the family. There may have been like some type of trauma that they never dealt with per se, you know, where they got professional help and they're holding all of this in. So I always use the analogy of like a soda bottle, right? So just, you know, bear with me here and audience. So if you have a soda bottle and everything that's happening around you is like being put into the soda bottle, right? So you keep filling it up with these emotions, with outside factors, until it gets to the point where it's like filled to the top. But the more things you add, the more you're shaking the soda bottle. Eventually, what's going to happen?
It's going to spill.
It's going to explode.
Explode. Oh, yeah.
Because of the carbonation. Yeah. So, you know, we're talking about these feelings that if they do not have a way or an outlet to be able to get it out and express themselves, whether it's through sports, whether it's through writing, whether it's through talking it out, eventually something's going to happen, and it may not look great. So being able to work with these students and teach them skills or give them a little toolbox of skills that they'll be able to, you know, deal with certain emotions and feelings. So when they find themselves in a certain situation, and to build them up also, self-confidence.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're doing a great job. I know that because a lot of our athletes, you know, football's a tough sport. Basketball's a tough sport. Some of them get pushed a little bit by other players. They like to get their butt. They know if a player. So I've seen a lot of progress being made on that front with some of the kids just learning self-control, and it's not easy. And I know
it's definitely not. And I use for that I use the analogy of like somebody pushing your buttons, right? So if somebody is standing next to you and just poking you time and time and time again, you have to have a lot of willpower not to just smack them and say, leave me alone. Now, if you think about that on the field, if people are doing things intentionally, obviously your first gut reaction, you're going to want to get physical or verbal, some type of aggression. So to be able to maintain your composure and not feed into that, when people are pushing your buttons, that takes a lot of self-control. And you have to be, that's where the self-awareness and self-concept comes in too, because you have to be able to recognize when that person or when those people are taking you to that level, to the point where you say to yourself, okay, I see what's happening here and I need to, you know.
There's a bad incident with
not give into this.
College basketball game. I think it was Division II teams were Division II level. Were going in the handshake line. It looked like it was going okay. Then all of a sudden, all heck broke loose. It was terrible. It was insane.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. The thing is, I grew up with the Broad Street Bullies, the Flyers. They were goons. We fought hair pulling. It was just. Hockey's a little bit different sport. Okay, hockey's you can get away
Very
with
aggressive.
Yeah, especially back in the day in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It's calmed down a lot. There's only so much you guys got helmets and everything. But yeah, when it comes to the high school stuff, man, it is really, really tough. And I appreciate everything you do. It's amazing what you and your staff have done.
I appreciate that. And, you know, so besides the volleyball team, I did some work with the baseball team as well.
Yes.
Shout out to Coach Jamal Martin and the players.
Jamal also assistant athletic director.
Absolutely, assistant athletic director.
I still call him Coach Bell.
I know.
There's a Coach Bell, Coach Martin,
Coach Martin.
And I love their
AD
update. Jamal's doing a Dave Burman type thing. He gets on there and he puts some updates
on
the games.
Updates,
so I gave him all this history, so I told him he can use the history. But yeah, so working with those guys,
Yeah.
And you know who's calm, cool, collected? Jamal's calm, cool, collected, and so is Coach Bell. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yep. So, and it's interesting to see the different dynamics of the teams. You know, you could really look and see, you see the laughter, you see the camaraderie, but then you can tell like which teams are really close knit and if there's like little cliques within the teams and so on and so forth moving on. But I did a similar exercise with the baseball team, and, you know, I was working with Coach Shaw and the football team. I'm going to continue to do more work with them just to build them up with the team building and things of that nature. But back to the girls' volleyball team, it got to the point where Coach Guy, she took it and ran with it. So when the girls had away games on the buses, they would do an SEL activity on the way to the game. And you saw how that team turned around. You know, when somebody would miss a shot or miss a serve or something, instead of getting upset about it, they started cheering, like, you know, you got this, and keep on pushing, and it's a beautiful thing, you know, turning that negative energy into positive energy. The whole basis of the positive action curriculum is called the thoughts, actions, and feelings circle. So we always say, like, there's a term like look before you leap, right? This is basically what that is, but it really teaches you to think about what you're doing before you actually do it. And then a big part of it is self-reflection. So think about it. You're an athlete, you played a game, it may have gone great, it may not have been so great. You always watch the film afterwards, right? So that's a form of self-reflection. Because just like you can do it in the classroom, you do it on the field or the court. So you're watching the different plays and you're seeing what you could have done differently. You're putting yourself back in that moment. Where did I go wrong? How can I fix it next time? Same mentality when it comes to academics and athletics, right? You're self-reflecting on the plays. You're self-reflecting on what you could have done better or how to change a certain play around. And it's the same thing in the classroom. You know, you may have reacted a certain type of way, or you didn't get the grade on the test that you wanted. You self-reflect. What could I do differently? What could I do better next time? Same type of deal.
So yeah, keep it going. Keep up the great work. Anything else you want to focus on? Because right now the big sports is Chester High boys basketball.
Absolutely.
And they're going to, big test against Lower Merion. Schools play a different style. Del Val, it's a little, there's physicality, and you just have to, it's going to be physical. And if the refs have control of the game, then you should be in pretty good shape. But you just have to, because I have had my problems too. I'm telling you, I did, especially back in the day, when I was a teenager. And I played a lot of hockey, and, I'd just be swinging that stick crazy at people. It was nuts. So now if we had lacrosse at Chester, that's another sport. Those guys hammer each other.
Oh, yeah, they do.
But there's very, very little, over the years, I've seen hardly any fights, altercations. It's amazing. Baseball's a sport. Some pitchers, some of the worst fights are Major League Baseball, because they're throwing at your head.
Exactly. So
I don't know how you do it. Tell me more about how you can convince an athlete to just try to calm down,
It's just like with anything else. It's a skill. You don't just sit down and at the snap of a finger, you learn how to play a video game or, score a touchdown or or hit a home run. It takes practice and skill. And that's what this is with this. And with the curriculum, and especially with the lunch groups, surprisingly, with my lunch groups at Chester High this year, I would say it's probably at least 75 to 80% boys, which is really interesting, because a lot of the times the girls are the ones that want to sit down and talk. This year it's boys, and it's so diverse as far as, ethnicity and different components and aspects. You have some that were like self-referred, and some that came in, a lot of them came in because they want to be there, which doesn't happen a lot with groups. But once you build that relationship, it really helps. So in those groups, I have football players, I have baseball players, I have a lot of athletes that make up those groups, along with, other students that may not necessarily be involved in athletics. But we have really, really heart-to-heart conversations about different topics. I start every lunch group with a quote on the board, right? And one of the quote, when we talked about team building, I used one of Phil Jackson's quotes, which was basically like, the strength of the team is in the individual, and the strength of the individual is in the team. That's a really powerful quote right there, because without an individual, you can't have a team. But if you have a team and the individuals aren't connecting, it's not going to be a great team.
Phil was very laid back.
Yeah.
He's from way out west, Montana, I think. And he played with some guys that were crazy, but he was like the steadying force of those New York Knicks teams. Coach of the Bulls. Yeah. Nobody was more competitive than Michael Jordan. And he knew how to. And you talk about a guy getting pushed a lot, and I had Rodman. Remember Dennis Rodman? Crazy. Bill Laimbeer. Now you're getting me all fired up here for Detroit, the Pistons and the Bulls and the Lakers and all those. So yes, they had to have some. They needed some mental health awareness also. You got to talk to the pros about it too.
Absolutely.
So Phil Jackson, that's a great one.
It's a really, really good quote, and they enjoyed that. We did a lot of team building activities based off of that. I feel and another thing that's really important, I'm going to talk about for a second, is what I call the SEL check-in. So before every group, and I started having athletes do this as well, like the different teams. It's kind of like getting a gauge for the vibe or the temperature in the room. So we just go around the room and I say, how are you feeling today? Right now, present in the moment. And they just shout out one word: tired, happy, angry, exhausted.
I'm pumped.
Right. There you go. So if a teacher does that, or if a coach does that, and somebody says mad, that's a red flag right there. So then as a coach, what are we going to do about it?
Why are you mad?
Are we going to pull? Right, exactly.
Why are you upset?
Yeah, what's going on? Do you want to talk about it?
I'm not getting enough playing time.
Yeah.
And another thing, I admire our local coaches, not only at Chester, but some of these parents out there, it's a big thing out there. They're really, really being not very kind to a lot of high school coaches out there. Football, especially basketball, they're right on top of you. That's another issue for another day. But the coaches have to learn, self-restraint also.
Absolutely. I mean, just like the athletes get beat up, the coaches get beat up as well. And that takes a lot of self-control, once again, key word that we've been talking about, to not, to basically take those words and take the things that are being said about them that are not necessarily nice things.
But if somebody, and there's a lot of coaches been here for a long, long time, and if somebody said to me, Burman, you stink as a coach. You're doing a terrible job tonight. I'm the coach. Let me alone. I mean, but a lot of coaches, maybe some of the younger guys, they just they get intimidated, and a lot of them are leaving. They're quitting after a year or two. It's really been rough to see all over the state of PA. So I appreciate what all the coaches have done, and of course the Chester guys are doing an unbelievable job. The coaching state, these guys have been through the wars together. And you talk about guys that play, big time high school ball, college ball. Kenny Tate, Conrad Chambers, and Keith Taylor. I'm trying to think, I miss anybody else in there? Darrell Moore. So all these guys, and the coaching staff for Chester. There's a lot of guys out there, and everybody has their role.
Absolutely.
For the football team.
Yeah. And then you talk about these sports at this age. If they acquire these skills, I mean, think about NFL games, hockey games, baseball games. Even in their adulthood, you see fights break out. You see people lose look at the coaches on the sidelines screaming at the refs, right? When they don't like a certain flag or a call or a penalty that's made. Yeah. So this skill is so important, and we all cope in different ways. But if we're able to, give our athletes and our coaches and our staff and our students a toolbox, and what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So it has to be individualized, and it takes a lot of practice, because as you know, through my career and everything that I've done as a therapist, I mean, think about it too, right? People are cursing at me, screaming at me, and all kinds of things. And
really?
Oh, absolutely.
You?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And it really takes a lot. And, you know, behind closed doors, I'm a very sensitive person. Yes, I'm putting it out there. You know, I'm emotional, I'm sensitive, I have feelings, we all have feelings. It's a matter of what we do with those feelings. And I have to constantly remind myself, this is not personal. And one thing I always try to have people do is put yourself in the other person's shoes. If you try to do that and understand where they're coming from and why they feel the way that they feel and the why behind it, then you may have a better understanding. If you were in that situation, how would you have reacted? And, you know, that person may not have the skills. Or the other thing is, we don't know what was happening with that person 5-10 minutes ago. It could have been something completely different. How many times have we gone home where, you know, we had a horrible day at work and we take it out on somebody, our significant other, our spouse, our children, and we really don't mean to. But then after the fact, when we think about it, we're like, I really shouldn't have done that because they didn't have anything to do with what happened. I was just having a bad day. And it's okay because we all have bad days.
So you're doing how do you feel about everything? You and your staff, and of course, there's always kids that are new kids coming in, getting older, coming in from lower grades to the next level. It's and maybe kids moving into the area. So it's just got to be, you're constantly on your toes.
Absolutely.
When do you get vacation?
I take it. We all, I mean, self-care is really important.
Yes.
You will find me doing some work on the weekends if something happens or if I have to plan for something, we all do. But one of the things that's going to be really interesting to see is because we just implemented this last year in the district, right? So it'll be interesting to see, like, in 12 years from now, our kindergartners that are now seniors, and if there's been a shift in regards to, you know, the whole social emotional learning piece, because as opposed to it being, you know, implemented in the middle of their 10th grade year, they're getting it from the time they're in pre-K all the way through 12th grade so that they can, you know, continue on a positive trajectory in life. So
you are obviously the coordinator. Who were some of the other people helping you out? Do you want to give a shout to some of the individuals?
Oh, absolutely. I certainly can. First, I want to thank the administrative team for putting their trust in me over at central office. I have my coaches, so if I go through them, we have Miss Labram over at STEM, Miss Dunleavy over at Toby Farms. I have Miss Cox-Cotman over at Main Street. I have Miss Pryor and I have Miss Schwinn, and I have Miss Murphy, and then you have teachers that aren't a part of the team that still implement SEL that may not necessarily be a coach. And then I have over at Edgemont Scholars Academy, Mr. Laws, and I have one of the social workers over there helping as well, Miss Hawkins. I don't want to forget anybody. I can't.
I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. especially some of the coaches. I'll ask, hey, who are your assistant coaches this year, especially with the football? You know what I mean? Speaking of people checking in, very nice here. We have Oompa checking in, a guy named Darren Laws. Do you know him?
Yeah, I know him.
I got my picture with him, too. There you go. Football game.
I thought I was bad with the selfies, but,
Let's go. Yep. So the first time I really met you was, you used to come up to and make some announcements. You wanted me to make some announcements when I was on the public address for the football games. I think you would come up there, but especially on the field. So, so this was your second season of Chester football.
Chester football. And despite the fact, that I live
Bucks County,
pretty much an hour away on a good day.
Well, move down here.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? So my son is a junior in high school. I don't want to move now because he's been in that school district for as long, since kindergarten. So once he graduates and he goes off to college, then definitely.
Because you're closer to the shore. You're closer. Delaware is right down the street. Jean-Pierre, his son goes to Mount Pleasant High School. Shout out Mount Pleasant in Delaware, which is I think it's It took me like 10 minutes to get there from here at Chester. So yeah, it's incredible. Great staff, great job. Well, and are you going to the Chester game tomorrow?
I really want to. I don't have my ticket yet, but I definitely want to be there. It's just hard because I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm currently in a doctorate program over at Newman University, going for my doctorate degree in educational leadership.
Smart. You're not a 2.5 point grade average. Back in the day, that was a great grade. But that's what I was, radio, you don't have to, but I don't have any of that stuff. But anyway, and you also, School of Hard Knocks for you too. So you have it all,
Yeah. So besides being a mom and working for the school district, and another thing that I wanted to bring up is the arts in Chester Upland School District. I work very closely with Dr. Bradley, who's our music director. Last year, I brought back a talent show, and this goes, hand in hand with SEL, because it's another way for students to express yourself. So when you have football players that get on the stage and are dancing or singing, and you didn't know about these unhidden talents, that then becomes another form of expression and coping for them. So we just did a wonderful talent showcase over at STEM for their Black History Month performance and award ceremony. But stay tuned for Chester's Got Talent, the second annual, which will be taking place sometime in April. So I'll definitely keep you posted about that. It was a phenomenal show last year.
A lot of talent has come out of Chester, music, sports. It's incredible. It really, really is. It's just amazing. And then growing up around here and seeing it develop over the years. So I am the historian. Somebody said that up there. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff on file.
It goes back to the relationship building and the connections and getting to know the students and the athletes, because if they don't trust you, they're not going to, come to you and say, hey, I want to be in a talent show, or it's up to us to help them tap into their inner talents that they have. I have some students that are phenomenal writers. They may be rappers, they may be artists, singers, dancers, never really had the opportunity to be able to pursue it until somebody took an interest in what they're doing, which is so important.
Our athletes get a lot of publicity. Yes, God TV.
Absolutely.
Tim Hudson and all the guys taking pictures. The promotion is there. It is absolutely unbelievable the support these kids have.
Yeah.
I know some of the fans are tough, especially the older ones, but they just want us to win. And winning means a lot here at Chester. But you have to learn how to, unfortunately, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
So you just have to learn how to be not a sore loser.
Yeah, and that goes all the way to the professional level too. Like the teams that you think that they're going to win, and then they don't win. How do they handle their losses? Teams that we expect, that we just expect to be in the playoffs, and then the Super Bowl. And then.
Everybody can't be like Andy Reid is like Mr. Calm, Cool, Collected,
Yeah.
And he couldn't win. I love the guy. I really do. I mean, he's won 3 Super Bowls now, and unfortunately none with the Eagles. But you had some New York, the Giants. Parcells was crazy.
Yeah,
he was nuts. Some guy, Bobby Knight, throwing the chairs and everything.
It's really interesting to look at the different personalities and the styles of coaching staff. You have the one coach that stands on the field and just, it's that little eye contact or whatever they do with their facial expressions or their gestures, you can tell. And then you have the ones that are just more vocal and verbal.
Oh, yeah.
And the same thing with the players, Some of them are internal and some of them are external. And that all goes along with, what this is. So...
So I'm wishing luck to the Clipper basketball team tomorrow against Lower Merion. And boy, you talk about history, the 19th postseason meeting between Chester and Lower Merion in boys basketball. And it goes back to 1937.
Wow.
So, unbelievable, some of the, history with Chester sports. And it's just amazing, again, what you and your crew have done. I mean, and you're going to keep it going. You continue to learn things on the fly also.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's my goal. I always tell people, like, I am currently living my dream job. people ask me, once you get your doctorate degree, what do you want to do with it? I want to stay exactly where I'm at doing what I'm doing, because in this position, it enables me to train. It enables me to educate, from an administrative capacity, but also having that direct contact with the students and the athletes, where I'm able to do that, and the therapeutic component of it. And in addition, you add the arts to it. I grew up on stage. I started performing when I was 8 years old, and the arts is how I coped through my childhood. Yep. So you just never know.
What do you have, like an open door policy? Anybody can talk to you if a kid has
Absolutely,
a problem?
yeah.
I know you don't want your phone ringing off the hook at home,
No.
but maybe you do, because you want to help out. You might have a kid, Mrs. Bowser, I really need help.
Yeah. So when I'm over at my main office, which is in Chester High School, students have to have a pass, but they can come talk to me. Teachers can come talk to me. Anybody can email me, which my email I will give out freely. It's dbowser, BOWSER, at chesteruplandsd.org. And it's my goal and my role is to help and to make a difference, whatever that may take. If I help one person a day, then I'm doing my job. And if it's more than that, then that's a great thing. And it could be a family member. It could be a student, a staff, a teacher. Some people, I've always had that personality. I'm one of those types of people where I can be in line at like the grocery store and the cashier will just start spilling their life out to me. I must have it written on my face.
You look like you're always smiling. It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing.
And another thing I wanted to mention too is
we have plenty of time at 10 minutes.
Okay. If you go on the Chester Upland School District Facebook page, Instagram page, even website, we dedicate now, and a shout out to the Chester Upland School District media team for doing a phenomenal job. But we actually have a social emotional learning calendar for every month, which goes out to the community for family members as well. So it's posted every week. So for example, the month of February, the theme was kindness. And every day on the calendar, there's like a little activity or a challenge for somebody to do. That could be done in school, in the classroom, but we're encouraging connections and conversations between family members as well. So it's not just happening in the school and in the classroom, but it's trickling into the community with family as well. The theme for the month of March is growth mindset. So we're talking about resilience. We're talking about overcoming obstacles and challenges, and we have different activities that we do. As a matter of fact, our first lunch group activity for March is going to be about challenges, defining what a challenge is, what were some of those barriers, and how did you overcome those challenges, or how did you not? Like, what stopped you from overcoming that challenge? And that's across the board as well when it comes to students, athletes, teachers, adults, people of all ages.
How about the Chester High legendary cheerleaders?
Oh, absolutely. Shout out to Coach Karen Maya.
Yeah, do you have to talk to some of the cheerleaders too?
I have not yet, but that's something that I'm definitely open to. I'm slowly, I guess, trickling into having conversations with different coaches. I'm more than willing to talk to whichever athletic team asks me to be there.
They're unbelievable.
And
They are everybody
absolutely.
People in Central PA, they miss Chester in more ways, going to the state finals in basketball, but also seeing the cheerleaders. Everybody has the cheerleaders. They show all the stuff they do. It's incredible what they accomplish.
Yeah, they are absolutely phenomenal. Their energy, is out of this world. And just like with every other team, I'm sure that there's issues, and like I said, anytime you have a new member on the team, it changes the whole dynamic, and then you have to figure out, okay, how are we going to move on from this? And I mean, even with shout out to Coach Rooney with the Clipettes with the dance team. That was a new added addition last year when she came on. It reminded me of, the funny thing is I went to Temple with her parents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when I saw her, it was interesting because I knew her before she was even here.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to teamwork, there's always challenges. There's girls that are going back and forth, or, the guys might be upset about something, and you have that conflict, off of the field and the court. But then, when you get back onto the field and the court, you have to work as a cohesive unit. Otherwise, you can't let that negative energy onto the field or the court, because it's going to affect the way that the game is played.
Well, this is so cool. You're working with the sports teams too.
Yeah.
And it really is. And it's just, our kids are they're highly emotional. They have a lot of fun out there. You see them dancing to the different tunes. DJ plays at basketball games. It's great. And just everybody is so happy. Because last year we were 12-10. A lot of teams would have taken that in boys basketball, but we just missed the playoffs. So the first time since 1970, that was a big story. But anyway, what we're doing this year, it's statewide. And again, we got a plug on one of the Philadelphia TV stations that I have to find out where that is and check it out. Hopefully it's on YouTube, but that's awesome getting that positive publicity.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I want to do this with as many people as I can across the board, whether it's in schools, with athletic teams, in the communities, outreach, and things of that nature, because these are skills that are just so important for all of us. Because how many of us have reacted in ways that we're not happy about when we think about it after the fact, right?
Yeah, it could happen at work,
right.
So.
Right, and think about what the consequences may be. It may not turn out great because of one simple reaction and how we dealt with a specific situation.
Well, starting this program 2 years ago?
I started 2 years ago. It took a while to research different curriculums and actually getting it fully implemented. This is the first full year of implementation, and we've already come such a long way in such a short time. That's why I'm excited to see what happens down the line in the future. Okay,
well, again, Dana, thank you very much. Dana Bowser, SEL coordinator for the Chester Upland School District, home of the Chester High legendary Clippers, named after a Clipper ship. You know that.
Yes.
The shipbuilding was huge here back in the day. So there's a little bit of history for you. So great show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I do okay interviewing you?
Oh,
okay.
You did phenomenal.
All right, okay.
Natural conversation.
I don't want to talk too much.
That's the best way to go.
It's great. Now, sometimes when I talk to the kids, I have to try to get it out of them, but I try to loosen them up because I tell them I'm a crazy man anyway. So Dave Burman here. Dana, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. We had the people checking in. Oompa, there he is. Tyrone Ricks. Yeah, I've been on his show a couple of times. Good stuff there. And it's all for the children out there.
Absolutely. It's all about the kids. They are our future.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Great show. Dave Burman, Delco Sports 360. And we'll see you next Monday.